Hey guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel, and welcome to my next weekly wrap-up that's actually going to be a bi-weekly wrap-up. Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks since I put out a video, and that is because Jack got sick again. He got pneumonia for the second time. Hi, Amber. And we're surviving. We are not thriving. He's getting better, thankfully, with antibiotics and whatnot. So fortunately, that seems to be going better, and he's napping right now. So I think that I actually have a chance to film this, and I'm gonna try and make it as fast as I can. Also, the sound quality might be a little bit different. I got a new lav mic. As you can see, we're kind of testing it out and seeing how that goes. Hopefully this works and that I am not recording completely audioless because that would really suck. But yeah, we'll see. Hopefully this is functioning as it should. So, just to dive right in, I believe in my last weekly wrap up, I was reading The Silver Blood Promise by James Logan, and I have since finished the audiobook of that. I did like it. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I enjoyed it. I'm probably going to read the next one when it comes out. I'm interested in seeing what happens next because there were some things that did not get resolved that I want to know what's going to happen. There's also a couple of things, relationships that I'm really interested in seeing develop. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think that the writing style was entertaining. I think that the style of it in general was kind of similar to what you see in The Lies of Locke Lamora, maybe. So if you like that, maybe you might like this as well because there is some heist-like elements to the story, even though it's not the main aspect of it. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm interested to see what happens next, and I think that James Logan will be a new author for me. So I also think that in my last one of these wrap-ups, I had said that I had read a lot of Tamara Pierce recently. I had not read her Emelon books, though. That has changed. Talking about Tamara Pierce and not reading the Emelon books just didn't seem fine, so it's been a long time since I've read them. So I have read all 4 of the books in the Circle of Magic series, so Sandry's book, Triss's book, Daja's book, and Briar's book. And of all of those 4, Briar's book is my favorite. Briar's just my favorite character in the entire Emelon world. So Sandry's book, all 4 of them still follow all 4 of the orphans, foster siblings. So Sandry's book does kind of center a little bit more on her in that it's their first year or the first couple of months together as foster siblings, and they are trying to figure out the adults are trying to figure out what is causing these earthquakes that are kind of coming across Emelon, and the kids get stuck in some trouble pertaining to the earthquakes. I'm not going to say any more than that because if you haven't read it, then there's kind of spoilers involved. So the second book is Triss's book. After the events of the first one, they're all a little bit closer. They all feel a little bit closer to each other. And now all of a sudden, there are pirates that are potentially going to be attacking, the university that they live at. And Triss ends up being instrumental in helping save them from the pirates that are attacking. In the third book, Daja's book, they all travel to a neighboring dukedom, fiefdom, I don't know, a neighboring, it's in the same country, but they're trying to figure out how to help because they're suffering through a drought, and they're trying to figure out how the duke can help the people in the community there, I guess. But the issue is that it's dry and there's a lot of problems with potentially wildfires and forest fires. And then shocker, one really, really big one happens, and Daja with her metal magic and her fire magic does end up being instrumental in helping there. And then finally, Briar's book, the entire city is being overtaken by a massive plague that they've never seen before. And he and Rose Thorn end up being very instrumental with their knowledge of plants and herbs and plant magic and so on and so forth. They end up being very instrumental in helping to find a cure. So that's the first 4 books. I'm not really going to go too much in depth because we'd be here for a very, very long time. Then I read the next 4 books, which are called The Circle Opens, which starts with Magic Steps, where all of the siblings have gone kind of their separate directions, and Sandry has stayed in the area, but she's living with her uncle, the Duke, now, and she ends up having to take a student who has no idea that he has what's dancing magic, I guess. Nobody has ever heard of it or seen it before, kind of like each of the 4 kids. And so she ends up having to take him on and teach him, and they end up also being instrumental in trying to figure out who's murdering a bunch of merchants in the city. And kind of gets creepy. I would say that the circle opens, a lot of them deal with crime solving, which is strange. It's just a different direction from the entire rest of the books that Tamara Pierce has written, except for Becca Cooper. And so in the second book, people are Triss and Nico have traveled very, very, very far south. Thank you, Ember. And like there's this conference of mages, I guess, that are there that Nico wants to partake in, and Triss is very interested in like the glass blowing aspect of this town that is it's very famous for. And through this, she meets a guy who accidentally creates, because he doesn't know that he has magic, a glass dragon that like flies around, and Triss adopts the dragon. And because she discovered him, she ends up having to take him on as her student because he has lightning magic, and that is her specialty. And in the midst of all of this, there is somebody in this town that is so the this city is very caste like in its like structure. And so you've got the people, I don't remember, Prathman, I think is what they're called, that are essentially like untouchables. You're not supposed to see them or speak to them or interact with them at all. And then a step above that is like the fifth, I don't remember what they're called, level essentially, and it's like the entertainers and like the street dancers, the street entertainers and stuff like that, singers, and somebody is killing them. They're called like the Yas, I think they're Yaskadasi or something like that. Somebody is killing them, and nobody can seem to figure out why. And a lot of the police force don't really seem to care because they're such a lower level. But Triss does, and Triss is trying to figure out who is doing it, and her student Keth also does because he's friends with a lot of these entertainers. So then in the third book, which is Daja's book, Daja and Frostpine, I think his name's Frostpine, her teacher, they have traveled in the opposite direction. They've gone very far north to visit his old friends from university. And while they are there, somebody is setting fire to a lot of the buildings in this area. They've got a little arsonist situation, and then Daja has to deal with that. I'm not going to go too in depth because things can get very, very spoilery with Daja's book specifically. There's a couple twists and turns that you don't expect, but Daja ends up being instrumental in helping to save a lot of people from the fires because every building in this area is built with wood. And she doesn't technically take on two students, but she does discover that the twins of the people that they're living with do have like magic. So she's tasked with finding them teachers for what they can do, and ends up having to teach them how to like meditate and stuff like that. And so she's tangentially kind of their teacher as well. And then the fourth book, which is the one that again I'm most familiar with and I love the most, is Briar's book. I think I went out of order for these. I think it actually goes Sandry, then Briar, then Daja, then Triss. But the last one is Briar's book. It's called Street Magic. Um, and lo and behold, he finds a street girl who seems to have the magic of stones and like gems and stones and stuff like that. And there's nobody that he can find to teach her, and so he becomes stuck as her teacher. The problem is there's like an issue with gang wars in this town that he and Rose Thorn are in, and that's such a big aspect of Briar's former life before he came to the Winding Circle Temple. And so he kind of gets enmeshed in this gang situation that's happening. And once again, there's like disappearances and murders, and the person in charge of the gang, I'm not going to say who it is, becomes very, very interested in Briar's student, whose name is Evie, and is trying to get her to work for them, and kind of kidnaps her at some point, and Briar loses it. If I talk quieter, don't mind me. Like I said, Jack's napping, and I don't want to wake him up. So I gave all of these in like the 4 to 5 range of stars. I like some more than others. I really adore Briar's books. I just adore him as a character. I adore like the turn his life has taken, and I just really, really enjoy him. And I haven't finished the last 3 books in the Emelon world yet, which are The Will of the Empress, Battle Magic, and I don't remember. There's 3 more that are not in a series, but they are just kind of like additional books that kind of wrap up this universe. So I do have plans to read them hopefully soon. I just haven't gotten to them yet. So next are a couple of audiobook arcs that I received, and that is A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faisal and Trouble by Lex Croucher. I received both of these audiobook arcs from Macmillan, and it's taken me a little bit to get to them. A Tempest of Tea has been out for a minute, and it is her new book in her new series in which a woman is running a tea house, but at night it kind of switches over and becomes a blood house for vampires. And it's just one long heist novel in which she and her team, in order to save their tea house, they have to rob, I think it's a ledger from pretty much the vampire's like central location, and things happen. There are so many twists and turns in this novel. Some I expected, some I didn't expect. I really enjoyed the audiobook narrator and I really enjoyed like the tone of it. And I just love heist anything, okay? Like heist stories get me every single time and it's so entertaining. There was a lot of things I didn't see coming. We'll put it that way. There are a lot of things I didn't see coming that I probably should have. But in the end, I really, really enjoyed it. And it did end on a massive cliffhanger that I will be reading when the next book comes out. So I did end up giving it 4 stars because you guys know how I feel about cliffhangers. But I wouldn't say the cliffhanger was so bad that I was like enraged at the end of it. I just definitely would have preferred that it not exist. The second audiobook was Trouble by Lex Croucher. This is like a governess to lovers historical romance, I guess you could say. Very, very slow burn, very, very low spice. So if that's what you're looking for, this is probably not it. I would even argue that possibly this could be like a YA, maybe not even new adult level of spice, if that tells you anything. So you follow a woman who she used to work in a mill. She's just like struggling to keep her mom and her sister afloat. Her sister is very, very sickly, and she kind of thinks of her sister as a saint because she's such a good person. She's so good with kids, blah, blah, blah. She's governessed before. And she has actually accepted a governess job with a high society family to watch the two teenage daughters when she falls even sicker, and the main character, whose name I can't recall because you guys know I suck at names, takes her place, Amy and Emily. Emily's the main character, and her sister's name is Amy. And so she goes and she pretends to be her sister to take this governess job because they need the money. However, she's an abrasive personality, to put it lightly. And so she's definitely not the type one would normally hire to be a governess. And she plans to go in, last as long as she can, maybe steal some stuff to sell while she's there, and then dip out. And so she goes, but she kind of like grudgingly falls in love with like the girls and the other servants that are there and the man of the house, obviously, because it wouldn't be a romance without that. And you just kind of follow the story as she navigates the lies that she's told and the feelings that she's starting to develop for the man and the relationship that she's developing with his daughters. It was really, really sweet. I actually enjoyed it a lot and I had a great time with it. I ended up giving it 4 stars. Maybe not my cup of tea in terms of like spice levels. I definitely prefer my romances a little spicier. If they're going to be a slow burn, I'm going to need a payoff, and there was minimal payoff. But it was cute, I will say. I enjoyed it. The last thing that I finally finished is Project Hail Mary. I was annotating it. I'm too lazy to go and grab it. It's on my other side of my bookshelf right now. But I did finally finish rereading Project Hail Mary. Obviously, it was just as good for me this time as it was every other time. 5 out of 5 stars. I adore everything about that book. I adore the characters. I'm not going to elaborate on that if you haven't read it. If you have, then you know. But yeah, I love everything about it. I love the science. I love the storyline. I love the stakes. It's so good. I love the end. If you haven't read Project Hail Mary, but you love The Martian, I really think that you would love this one too. I personally love it more. I just think that it's amazing. 5 out of 5 stars. Again, and then for the things that I'm currently in the middle of, I am thinking about starting to reread The Way of Kings because obviously I've got to prepare for the next Stormlight book to come out, I think in December. So I'm thinking about rereading The Way of Kings and annotating it this time just to like make sure that I'm up to date on all of the Cosmere references. So that one I'm trying to read physically. It's obviously going to take me a long, long time because I'm going so slow. And then I took a pause on The Will of the Many by James Islington because I got approved and sent an arc of Kevin Hearn's new book, Candle and Crow, in this series right here. Ink and Sigil. Yeah, Ink and Sigil, Paper and Blood, and now Candle and Crow is the third and last book in this trilogy. Kevin Hearn is one of my favorite authors of all time. So when I say that I squealed when I received the email containing the arc of that book, I was on a train full of a bunch of people and I didn't even care, and downloaded it to read immediately. Obviously, I put a pause on The Will of the Many from James Islington because of this, but I am still intrigued. I do plan on continuing with it. I just had a different priority. Other than that, I do have a haul of a couple of other books that I'm once again too lazy to go and get. But I picked up Funny Story by Emily Henry, and I also picked up The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. Those are a couple of romances that I'm probably going to try and pick up sometime soon just as like a palate cleanser. And yeah, that's it for this one. It was kind of all over the place, but when I'm reading Tamara Pierce, I binge a lot of them in a row, so it gets a lot of pages in for me that I'm not necessarily like trying to get, but they're so quick. They're like less than 300 pages each, so they're so easy to fly through, which means that over the last 2 weeks since the last time I spoke to you guys, I've read 11 books, if my count is correct. And that is a lot of books for 2 weeks. So I think that the latter half of the month of May is going to go a lot slower. But yeah, other than that, Jack and I are having a mommy and Jack day today. He's down for his nap and hopefully staying down for his nap. Afterwards, I have plans to go to a bookstore and let him kind of run around, maybe pick something out. Yeah, that's it for this one. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Down in the description box, you're going to see links to my Goodreads, my Twitter, and my Instagram in case you guys wanted to follow me on any of those. I guess I need to change this outro because it's not Twitter anymore. It's X now, but I don't call it X because that sounds stupid. I don't know. You guys know what I mean. I'm just going to be that old person continuously calling it Twitter, I guess. Whatever. So down in the description box are links to all of those in case you wanted to follow me there. But that's it for this one today, guys. Bye.